Hello everyone and welcome back to the Giants podcast, where every week we talk all things rugby league and Huddersfield Giants. I'm your host Cameron Deacon, and joining me today, as always, we have the two usual suspects. It's Huddersfield Giants legend and Hall of Famer, Mr. Earl Crabtree.
Legend. Thank you.
And we are joined again by the voice of every Huddersfield matchday experience, Mr. Tim Burton.
Hello.
And we are joined this week by another very special guest. It's a man who made over 260 appearances as a player in the NRL, an impressive 15-year playing career. He was the captain of the Green Machine of the Canberra Raiders. Since his retirement, he's turned his hand to coaching, and since April of last year, he's been your head coach. It's Mr. Zac Woolford.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
It's,
Good to have you here, mate.
I'm glad I'm looking at Earl and not you, that's for sure.
It's funny though, you still look tiny, don't you, Tim?
What do you mean?
The next to whoever it is, it doesn't really matter who's in here. You look like a little small child in the corner.
Not many blokes make me look tall, but
Mate, you look tall on the squash court, mate, don't
you? Let's not go there, mate.
To be fair, we try our best, don't we?
Yeah. It's my posture. I've got bad posture.
I know, yeah, you could call it that, mate. Short legs, I call it.
So, Simon, before we go too off the rails and abusing Tim, we'll get into a bit about yourself, because it's something that I wanted to do. A lot of the players, fans see the players playing and they abuse them and whatever, and they give them praise when they play well. But you're the man that they only very rarely they get press conferences off, but they don't get to hear much else. And so hopefully we get to find out a little bit more about yourself. And so I wanted to go right back to the beginning. When you're back in days in Australia, and I wanted to know, how did you get into rugby then, when you were...
Oh, well, obviously, like any young boy in a country town, you start playing sport from a young age. My father didn't let me play rugby league till I was 8 or 9 years old, and I was one of the smaller kids in the class, so I actually played football, or soccer in Australia as we know it, for a couple of years. But yeah, look, it was a highlight of the week. You'd go and train a couple of times a week and go and play on a Saturday afternoon. You'd come home in the winter and sit in front of the heater and watch the Winfield Cup Saturday game of an afternoon, and go to church on Saturday night and get up Sunday and watch rugby league again all day. So that was pretty much the life of a kid growing up in a country town. I lived in a country town about an hour and a half from Canberra. We were in town. My dad was a plumber. My two elder brothers grew up to be plumbers as well. I sort of bucked the trend. I left school in 92 and was signed by the Canberra Raiders in 92 and moved to Canberra at the back end of 1992 to start my first pre-season. And I left there in 2007, so it was a wonderful ride, and I felt very lucky and very privileged to have the career I did have at Canberra. It was only... I had a couple of different options to go and play, but Canberra was close to home, and being a 17-year-old moving out of home and moving to a family in Canberra that I didn't even know, it was important that I could jump in the car and drive home whenever I got a chance. And for the first 18 months, if I'd have a day off training, I'd go home the night before and come back early the morning I had to train. So it was a good life. It was a good life. It was very enjoyable.
And something that because obviously rugby league is so big in Australia, especially. So, like, at what point in your life did you know that was where you wanted to go?
Oh, look, I think once I was around 15, 16, and you could start to make proper rep teams, and I realised that rugby league was what I wanted to do, and I was fortunate enough in 91, 92 to make a couple of rep teams, and as I said, I had a couple of a guy by the name of Mark Lowry. He played late 80s, early 90s, mainly a reserve grader for the Canberra Raiders. He came out and captain coached my team, my hometown Young, in 1992, and I was 16 years old, and I played 2 games in the under 18. I was turning 17. I played 2 games in the under 18s, and he called me into first grade, and I played the rest of the year in first grade with him, and that was the connection really. He went back to the Raiders the year after, and he pretty much took me with him. He got me an opportunity. I had Kevin Neal was the CEO of the Raiders at the time, and the development officer, Peter Solis. They came out to Young one day and met me at lunchtime, and pretty much agreed to go to Canberra the same day. And like I said, once I finished my HSC and had a few weeks off, which is my Year 12 high school certificate, I had a month off, and I was in Canberra, and away I went. So it was a very interesting year.
Did you were you Canberra Raiders supporter growing up, or
no, I wasn't. back when we were growing up, we had, in the same, pretty much the same street, all the cousins lived in the same street, my mum and her two sisters, so we all grew up together, and you're either a Parramatta or a St George supporter back then, so I was a St George Dragons supporter. But I did, I took an interest in the Raiders, obviously, when they won the 89 grand final. That was a fantastic game, and, I always, when they had Ricky Stewart and Laurie Daly and all those sort of guys, you always, they were the sort of team, your second team, really. They had quite a few guys from the Riverina or from my area over a part of the Raiders before I got there. Obviously, Laurie Daly was from Juneau. He was in the same group as the young cherry pickers, Brett Mullins, Brett Hetherington, Luke DeVico. They were all from Young. So, at one stage there, once I started playing NRL, we had 4 guys from the one town in playing NRL. So you don't see that a lot. You don't see that very often at all. And so we Young's been a very good nursery for players, heading to the NRL.
I just find it fascinating that you were saying it's saying like in like a street or a town, it'd be like you choose between 2 different teams. And I think maybe that's a difference to sort of the society over in how things are in England, where it's you're either football or you're rugby. But in Australia, it seems you're either one team or another. It's more like a way of life, and I think maybe that is one of the biggest differences between here and Australia.
I think it is, particularly from a playing point of view as well. It actually is their life. The players, it's their life over there. They live and breathe rugby league, and it's not a job for the players in Australia. They actually it's everything to them, and I think there's a bit of a difference over here. I don't think it's over here. I don't think it's at the same level. I'd like to get to that level, but you're right. Rugby league is a way of life in Australia. That's for sure.
Is Young still producing a good crop of players now, or is it dropped off since that?
Yeah, look. Obviously, that was a golden period where we had quite a few. The actual group 9's always producing players. I mean, you look at the Dragons, St George Illawarra Dragons. They got Jack DeBellin and young kid Lomax there from Tamora, which is half hour away from Young. There's always.
That's where Ryan Ipslich's from, isn't it?
Yeah, Hinchy's from Tamora, which we played against Hinchy all through the juniors. So. So the Group 9's always been all the Riverina, which includes Group 20, Griffith and Leeton and Yanko and all those sort of, always been a nursery. There's always someone at some club from that area, making it in the NRL. So as far as Young's concerned, there are a few kids, around in the junior squads, 18s, 16s, 18s, a couple in the under 20s competition, but. As far as NRL players, Jordan McLean, he's probably the main one. He's at the Cowboys now. He's doing quite well. He's played for his country and whatnot. So he's probably the last one and the only one for a while that's come out of Young and actually made it.
And you sort of mentioned it there a little bit before, but the NRL is seen as basically the best rugby league in the world, and it's and now you've coached in the Super League. What's the difference between the two, do you think, or how does it get from here to there?
Yeah, look, it's in Australia. Like I said, it's a way of life. It's definitely a lot more professional, and that's not just from a playing point of view, but from the top down. I mean, the money they have in the NRL, the money, the salary cap's 14 million. The grant the NRL clubs get from the NRL covers their salary cap, so it's 14 million. So when I was playing, the salary cap was probably 3.5 million, and the grant from the NRL was 1.5 to 2 million. So clubs still had to stump up quite a bit of money for their cap, but now it's the cap's 13 or 14 million, and the grant's 15 million or 16 million. So it's certainly you look at the referees, the fact that not all games are televised. Some games you've got a video ref, some you don't. It's purely and simply money, and it's a lot more professional because of the money that's you look at the Premier League here. I know that's another couple of levels again, but if you want to compare, it's like our Premier League in Australia is rugby league, and AFL. Obviously, not a lot of people know about AFL, but it's bigger than rugby league. More money in AFL as well, and it's played everywhere. It's played in Perth, Adelaide. So they're the two big codes in Australia, and football, to be honest, in the last 10 or 15 years in Australia has gone from there to there too. It's it's a lot more prevalent. There's a lot more money involved in football. Obviously, it'll never get to the levels that it is over here, that's for sure.
Is it all televised, AFL and that as well? Because
Yeah.
I have a massive issue personally, and from the commercial side now, that I think that's one of our biggest issues with bringing more money in, revenue through commercial sponsors, simply because we don't play on TV enough. And
Yeah.
as soon as you bring that in, you can then invest it back into whatever way you want to use it. Do you think there has been a change maybe in Australia with the fact that TV's come in and there's more bigger players now trying to invest more money in to get those rights?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. AFL and NRL, every game is live on pay TV, on like your Fox Sports type thing. I think in the NRL there might be 3 games on Channel 9 a week, or 2, which is obviously free. AFL the same. There's a couple of games free on 7 and 7 Mate, but yeah, every game every week is live. You can watch it live.
And different channels as well. So it
Different
isn't,
channels,
it isn't
yeah.
just one company that has a
No.
monopoly over it deciding
No,
to
Channel
just
9.
show free games.
Channel 9. I think how it used to work is Channel 9 used to pick the top 2 games, and they'd be on Friday night and Sunday night, and then Fox Sports would rank the rest of the games, and they would put the better games in their better time slots. I think now it's more getting to the stage where the NRL dictate who plays when. It's not Channel 9 and it's not Fox Sports, because what happened in the past, and exactly what you're talking about, the Raiders would get, when I was playing at the Raiders, we'd be lucky to get 4 free-to-air games a year, and not everyone can afford the pay TV. So from a commercial point of view, it was very hard to get sponsorship when you could, Brisbane Broncos were getting 15 games a year on free-to-air TV, and the Raiders were getting 3 or 4. So that's always been the issue as far as the merchandise, and the bigger clubs getting more free-to-air games, they're always attracting more sponsors, and rightly so.
Even in the UK, they show free NRL games every week when they're on. Every morning, I wake up and they're always the first 3 things on in a row. So it just shows us how widespread their commercial is. But after your career in Australia, which, including as a coach, but we'll get onto that later on, you've obviously moved over to Huddersfield. And what was your experience of the UK and England before coming here as a coach?
Well, I'd been here. I came here in 1997 with the Canberra Raiders. We played 3 games against Wigan, Halifax, and London Broncos in the World Club Challenge. So we were here for 3 weeks, and to be honest, that was 3 best weeks of my life. We had a ball, and we came over here. Back then, only the top 4 teams went through. So pretty much, if you're an Australian team, if you lost one, we played 3 games here, and then we played the same 3 teams in Australia. Pretty much, if you lost one game, you weren't going to go through to the semi. So we came over here after beating all the 3 teams in Australia. We came over. We set up in London. We decided to go and have a beer for 3 days. Started training Thursday. Played Saturday. Beaten London Broncos 18-0 after 15 minutes, and we got beat. And there were some crisis meetings after that. Mal was the coach at the time. We had Laurie Daly, Ricky Stewart, Bradley Clyde. We had a fantastic side, and really a team that shouldn't have lost a game in that World Club Challenge, but we did, and that sort of put a dampener on the trip for a couple of days. And then we thought, well, there's no use kicking stones. We may as well go and have another beer. So we did that. I don't remember much of the first week in London. But then we set up camp in Leeds for 2 weeks, and we beat Wigan, we beat Halifax, and after the Halifax game, I think we were staying in the Holiday Inn at Leeds, and the Australian cricket team were there, the Ashes. So we played on the Sunday, we went to the Ashes on the Monday. They won that game, so there was another 2 days on the drink with the Australian cricket team at the Holiday Inn. So the only problem was we had to go home and get prepared for semi-finals in Super League. So I'm not too sure that 3 weeks was good preparation for that. But
How old were you
had
at
a
the
great
time when that happened?
How old?
Yeah.
That was 97, so I was 21, 22 years old.
Right.
Fantastic time, opportunity. That was,
I think people forget about stuff like that, because you think of all the games you probably had in your career. I bet you can't remember half of them, but you'll remember that.
Oh yeah, I remember those tricks.
It's the same with me and the little tours and stuff like when I've been to Australia. Even when we've been on training camps down to Bath with Nathan Brown, I'll remember that for the rest of my life, because those are experiences around your mates and your family, as it were, your brothers. And it's those memories that you take forever, and sometimes you forget about the games. It's those that you'll always hold on to.
Yeah, I don't remember much about the games, just that we lost our first one. You never forget that, and the reaction and the crisis after it. And But it was funny. I roomed with Luke Predison. He was younger than me, and he had no family. He was, I had a wife and kid. Oh, well, I wasn't married, but I had a young boy, and I was always ringing back Australia. And we got a card, $100 credit phone card. So mine was gone after a week, and Predo was a boring bloke, and he never rang anyone in Australia. So one morning I saw his card hanging out of his wallet, so I got it and I started using his card. And probably 2 weeks in, he actually went to use it, and he had no credit. He just said, "Germ, you." So yeah, that was quite funny.
But as a player for Canberra, you weren't just a player. You were also the captain of Canberra for 4 years.
Yeah, 5 years. Yep.
5 years. So what was that like for you? You speak where it's not just a job for them. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I didn't handle it the first year because 1999, Ricky, Stewart and Bradley Clyde left the club, and then in 2000 we lost Brett Mullins, who came to England, Laurie Daly, Dave Ferner, who came to England. So in the space of 12 months we lost 5-6 international, not just leaders but internationals. And I was fortunate enough that Mel chose me to be the next captain, and the first year was rough, 2001. Just the expectation, the expectation that I had on the team was what do you call it? It was unrealistic. We were starting again. We were in a rebuild, and it was a tough year. And I learned a lot that first year. But then Matty Elliott came in 2002, and we bought some players like Clinton Shifkovsky, some players that were good players at other clubs, but weren't in their team every week. And we got a lot out of those sort of guys. He came and replaced Brett Mullins. He was fantastic for us. And we still had Ruben Wickie and guys like that, Luke DeVico. We still had the nucleus of a good side. Brad Drew came and did a pretty good job for us for a couple of years. Jason Smith came back from Australia, and we had a really good year when he came back. And we were tipped to be wooden spooners. 2001 right through to 2005-06. My reign there as captain, and we actually only ended up missing the semi-finals once in those 5 years. So we didn't have a great team, but we just had a good core group of players that wanted to do well and wanted to train hard and work for each other. And 1 year, I think it was 2003, we won our first 8 games. And that was a year we were tipped to run last. We came out and won our first 8 games, so we finished in the top 4 that year. And so we got the most out of our squad, definitely. Once we lost all those internationals and leaders, we definitely got the most out of what we had. And they were good times, as Earl said. Those times, they were good times, and they were really good times.
And after 15 years of playing, if not longer than that, from when you're a junior and whatever, how do you make that transition for yourself, going from playing to coaching?
Well, I didn't go straight into coaching. I was lucky enough to get a job, with Fox Sports in Australia. So I did. I was doing sideline commentary at NRL games. I was doing shows during the week. I'd go drive to Sydney on a Friday night and do half a dozen interviews after the Friday night game just for the Fox show on the Saturday. So I was pretty busy. I did that for 2 or 3 years, and really, I didn't really it was hard on the family, and I was sort of looking for a full-time gig with them, and I didn't get that, so I decided to leave that behind and started doing some part-time coaching at the Raiders. Started coaching the Queanbeyan Blues, who pretty much the Raiders team in the Canberra Cup. And I really enjoyed that. Did that for 4 years. We made 3 grand finals, and we won 1. We won 2 in extra time and lost 1 in extra time. So 3 years in a row we were extra time in grand finals. That's not good for the health at all. So, and then I was fortunate enough to be full time with Brownie at Newcastle, and I just decided that I was going to have a crack and make a go of it. And it's something I really enjoy. It's been a bit of a roller coaster this year. It's not all. It's not all roses, that's for sure. It's been hard work, but there's enough good times there to keep you going, and we know where we're heading, and I know where we're focused on where we need to get to, and it was never going to be a quick fix here. So, but I'm confident we're going in the right direction.
And going back to your time at Queanbeyan, how do you say it?
Blues, Queanbeyan Blues.
Queanbeyan Blues, because I was reading that name, I was like, how the hell do you pronounce that?
Queanbeyan.
Wrong. But were you coached your son there?
Yeah. It was funny. My son Zac was he was in the under-18s Raiders team, and their competition finishes, like it's only a 10-week competition, so they finish in April, May.
Right.
So he came back to the Blues after they all go back to their local clubs when they're finished. So he came to the Blues and played probably half a dozen games with the 18s, under-18s, and I had 2 really good hookers, and they both had season-ending injuries with about 8 weeks to go. One went down and then the other went down. So, I was really apprehensive about putting Zac in because, it was always going to be, well, he's only there because of his dad and whatnot, and I didn't really want to do that, but, I had to. And, look, he did his job, got better and better every week. We got to a grand final, we won it. So, it was really special. It was really, really good.
I was going to say, actually, what was that like for you putting him in the side? Was it, like you said, is it difficult to do that with?
Oh yeah, it was difficult.
Pressures?
Like I can handle it. I can handle the flack, but I knew he was going to get flack on and off the field. There was a couple of times there, I could hear people what they were saying to him and about me and whatnot. So that was really hard. But there's only one way to fix that, and that's just to play well and win, and that's what we did. There was one time there. It was at Gungahlin, the other side of Canberra, and we were playing the Bulls, and it's one of the only grounds where they got a good stadium where there's actually a box you can go and sit in out of the cold for the coaches. And my wife was there, and she goes, "Oh, do you mind if I come and sit in the box?" I said, "Yeah, no problem." She lasted 5 minutes. She said, "I can't." She said, "I can't sit here and allow you to speak about Zac like that." I'm going. I said to our trainer, the blue shirt, I didn't actually mean him to go out and say the exact words, but I said, "Tell that little so and so and so and so." So he's gone out and repeated it word for word. And the wife, and she just walked out, and I said, "Well, I warned you.
Did you not get a message back from him? I remember Baloo doing that to me a few times, sending me messages down, and I go back, whoever was a water carrier gets passing on messages, go, "Send this back to him." And I think it was Robbo a couple of times, and it was like, "Yeah, Earl, I decided not to send that message back." No, next time, do.
I reckon Zac definitely would have had something to say, but I think the blue shirt knew not to repeat it back to me.
Is Zac your bar that's currently at the Knights?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's at the Knights. He's doing okay at the moment. He's plugging away. Yeah.
And there was also one other game that came up when I was doing some research on you. It's City versus Country.
Oh yeah.
And so what's that about then? Because that's a tradition that only stopped a few years ago.
Yeah, look, it's sort of back when I was growing up. City Country was a big deal. All the good players played, and it was like wasn't as good as an Origin, but it was a game you look forward to watching. And over the years it lost it wasn't a selection trial for Origin. It was all the players that weren't playing for Australia or Origin. So there was a lot of players there that in the last few years there were a lot of players there that weren't even full-time NRL players getting a game. So. They decided to do away with it. It was a meaningless. It still meant a lot to the players. If you played for Country or City, it was a big deal. Like everyone, growing up, I certainly wanted to play for Country. That's for sure. So, to the players, it still meant a lot. But I think it just lost its spark from a commercial point of view, from a spectator point of view. It was a bit of a farce, really. So, yeah, they eventually did away with it.
How was selection made for that then? Was that just a case of picking the best players in the regions, or
just the coach and the selectors picking their best 17 who play from the NRL. Obviously a lot of them were city-based and a lot of them were country-based. So it was just a matter of picking their best team.
What when you finally got into coaching, how much of your experience as a player did you take into that?
Oh, it's totally different.
No, but is it like what to take from your coaches as a player?
Oh yeah, heaps. Yeah, I had some good coaches. I was coached by Tim Sheens. I was, my first coach at Canberra was Craig Bellamy. In the 21s, I was coached by him. Matty Elliott, I found a really good coach. I worked under Ricky for a couple of years at Canberra. Dave Ferner, I worked under him at Canberra. So yeah, you take bits and pieces out along the way, what you believe in, what you think will work. Then you've got to add your own little bit as well. So, obviously being at the Knights for a couple of years, I learned a fair bit up there, not only off Brownie, but, we had Kurt Wrigley there for my first 12 months. He came from South Sydney. He was their attack coach when they won the comp in 2014, and he's a very knowledgeable person. before I left, a bloke from the Sharks, when they won the comp, he was up there, Shep. He was very good too. So yeah, you learn a lot along the way. You need to. I think being a head coach, you've got to have a pretty good grasp of all areas of the game. You don't have to be an expert on all the areas. That's why you have the assistant coaches. Like look here, we've got Grixie doing a fantastic job with the outside backs, and Robbo does a great job with the D. Willie Poaching's really good with the middle players. So we all work really well together, and we've all got our own areas where we, I guess, specialise. But generally speaking, we're all pretty much across the game at a level.
Do you find yourself, especially to the hookers in the side, do you find yourself going towards them when you're actually coaching more? Because yourself as a hooker.
I try not to overcoach them, because I know I've seen in Australia, Brownie's a classic example. His focus is heavy on his hookers, and I think he wants them to be perfect. You look at Ricky Stewart back in his younger years of coaching, he went through halves like they were going out of fashion because none of them were good enough. So I try. I do little things with Cruz and OB, and but I don't. I'm not going to be one of those coaches that's down their throat all the time about being perfect. I know. They're not going to be perfect all the time. There's always room for improvement. But along the way, if I see things that I think they need to be better at, or shape up on, or do a little bit more work on, we'll do that. But I think they've been pretty good, to be honest.
It must be a challenge in itself with your coaches as well, because if you think about it, it's not just a head coach like yourself. You don't just go onto the field and tell everyone what to do. You've got all these great coaches around you. But I suppose they've all got their own take on things, their own personalities. Is that something you have to control? Because you're the head coach. I mean, ultimately, you get the blame at the end of the day when we don't play well on the field, even though you've got all these coaches doing all these little bits with them. Do you have to keep them in check as well and keep them in a direction, or do you sort of lean on them a little bit? Do you all work alongside, or is it more directed than that?
No, I think we lean on each other. I think we do really well. The only issue I've got is got to tell Robbo to shut up a lot of the time. he talks too much. But Robbo's very knowledgeable. He's very good. He's got a good grasp of the game. Both sides of the game. So we learn. I think we learn off each other. We lean on each other. I let them do their job. It's not often that we do something where I go, well, no, I don't agree with that. We can't. We need to do something different. I think I think it's important you delegate your coaches their job, and it's at the end of the day, as you said, it's my responsibility. But you got to let them do their job, and if times we need to have a robust debate about things, we will, but it doesn't happen very often, to be honest.
There's so much experience there, isn't there? And it's not players or coaches from an old school era, it's the modern players. They've all played Super League and played highest level. Do you think that's important, sort of have a grasp of the modern game rather than how the game used to be played?
Yeah, I think it's very, very important. It's vital, and we're lucky. Robbo's, he's been there and done it all. He's played as a half, he's played as a hooker, he's played for his country. Willie Poaching, I played against Willie in Australia, so he's been around forever. But again, he's been able to keep himself in the game, so he understands the changes, and he understands, as you say, the modern game. And it's good to have different characters, different skill sets amongst your coaches. Obviously, Willie specialises with all our middles. Robbo's good with our halves. He's good with the attack side of things. We've Grixie's there covering outside backs, so I can do a little bit of edge D, and I can still jump in and do a bit of attack with Robbo. So while we've got our roles pretty much, we know our roles. Robbo will often do something from a defensive point of view if he feels we need it, or I'll take someone and do some stuff from an attack point of view. So I think we certainly do work well together.
You came over here for 3 weeks in 1982, whatever it was.
97. You were about 30 then.
Yeah, that's right. You said you enjoyed it. I mean, when you got the opportunity to come here, did you jump at the chance because you'd enjoyed your time here? And how different did you find it actually coming and settling here than when you came just for drinking?
It's a lot different sober.
Yeah.
I went to Leeds a couple of times, and I said to myself, I don't remember any of this. I couldn't find Majestics, Earl. Is that still around? Or?
I think
It's still there. It's just not Majestic anymore, is it?
It's probably a McDonald's now.
Shut down after the Woodgate and Boyer incident. Isn't it?
Yeah, but look, there's obviously a lot. There's obviously, it's a change in lifestyle, change in culture, something different. There's obviously a lot to do over here. So I thought it was a fantastic opportunity for my family. Like I briefly looked into coming over here as a player. When I finished at the Raiders, so 2007 and 8, when I went to the St George Illawarra Dragons, I looked to come over here then, but it was hard. The imports and quotas and. Try to get through on my grandfather's visa or something like that, like all players do. But in the end, it was a bit too hard. And then the Dragons came up, so we didn't. And the family were a bit younger then too, so it would have been difficult. But certainly now it's the right time, right opportunity. And obviously, if I want to be serious about being a head coach, it was a fantastic opportunity. So I've been given that chance and trying to make the most of it.
And you arrived just during the best summer we've ever had in the
best
past
time of
years, and then probably the
we're making up for it now, aren't we?
Yeah, making up for it.
Well, everyone did tell me at the time, don't get used to this. This never happens, and I'm
It'll be snowing in 2 weeks.
it's my wife's a bit depressed at the moment. She can handle the winter because the winters were pretty bad in Canberra, and even in your spring autumn months in Canberra, you got very cold days, but. She can't handle not having any sun for 12 months. So I'm hoping it comes out eventually.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. Next Tuesday.
I'm not sure about that.
Next Tuesday for 2 hours.
Well, she's going home in 4 or 5 weeks, so I reckon it'll come out then when she leaves.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I was going to say actually, what was it like when you decided to come over? What was it like for your family in potentially bringing them over? Or
look, it was. My wife was hot and cold about it. She obviously saw the opportunity too, but leaving 2 boys behind, it's easy for dads to leave kids behind when they're 18, 19, 20, but it's a bit different for the mums, so she misses them, and she hasn't seen those guys since late January now, so she's busting to go home and see them. But it's like I said, it's a good experience. It's an experience we probably wouldn't have had. So we've been to see a few other countries already, which is something she understands we wouldn't have probably done if we weren't over here. So there's a lot of upside to it, but it's hard when you've got a couple of kids still back home.
And how are you finding your time living here since you've moved over then?
Yeah, I love it. We live out of town a little bit. It's just like living back in Young. It's a lot of countryside around us, all nice and green, and it's quite a quiet little place we live. Not much traffic, so. It's a great place. It's a good place to live. You can jump in the car and do whatever we want. And been to York a few times and Chester and.
Every Australian that comes over, first place they go to is York.
Well, I can only go on your advice.
Yeah. I did tell you.
You must have been to London then. You must have done all the.
Did the London? Yeah, we went to London for a couple of days and. No one told me about the carbon tax, so I got a 160 quid bill for that. That dampened that trip.
Have you been to Scotland yet?
No, that is on the list.
Where it's cold.
Yeah, that is. Well, we mightn't go there yet. We might wait till it warms up there. But people say Edinburgh's a good trip.
But you listened to Nathan Brown, didn't you? You moved straight to home Firth.
Yeah.
So you're talking about, it looks different sober. Nathan Brown spent a lot of time not sober in home.
Yeah, no, I heard that. I knew that.
I was with him quite a lot of the times, and he absolutely loves the place. But I don't think you lasted quite as long as what he did.
No, I didn't.
You were living above a bakery.
Yeah, I know.
He loved it.
I know. Yeah, no, there was a couple of pubs there that Bumper told me that him and Brownie used to frequent quite often, and a couple of rough places too. What's it called? The White Hart on the corner there.
I'm not saying that.
I can't possibly comment.
I drink in there quite often.
No, well, I was living at New Mill there. For a little while until the family came over. I didn't mind it out there. It was really good.
I saw something the other day, going back to the rugby league side of things, about coach versus manager debate, which goes on with different managers and different coaches of rugby league teams, especially. How do you view yourself? Are you more of a manager or more of a coach type? Do you like to get involved?
Yeah, that's a good question. Bit of both, really. Obviously, a lot of my job is managing players, managing personalities, managing staff. So you could see my job as being a manager, but I do like to be hands-on as a coach too. I obviously have a lot of input into how we play and the way we want to play. So yeah, it's a good question. It's a bit of both, really. I could imagine the manager's job with the football, the only difference is he's probably got about 10 more staff under him coaching. So they're probably more managers than coaches. But yeah, from my point of view, it's a bit of both.
When you came over, how much input did you get into your backroom stuff around you?
Well, no, none at all, really. I mean, they were all here. They were all contracted. They were all, Bumpers sort of had that side of things sorted. I was happy with the coaching side of things with Spug and Robbo. I thought they were really good. Obviously, Spug's not with us now, and we got Willie in. We've made a couple of changes since then. Probably look to make, another one at the end of the year, just to make sure we're better. From a performance point of view, we obviously need to make sure moving forward we got most of our squad on the paddock as opposed to off it. So we obviously need to make some changes and make some. Make a difference there. But we got a couple of our young Stewie and Adam McGrett and those sort of guys. They're fantastic. They're good at their job. They just needed some leadership, which they got now with Ollie in, and they're all on the right track now. We're gradually getting most of our squad back on the paddock, which helps.
How much did they help you when you first arrived there? Because it's a bit, it's a bit completely strange place to you when you arrived. So.
Look, I sort of found my own way, Spuck.
Yeah.
Chris Thorman helped me more than anyone. He was, he was pretty much a single guy like me, so he took me around and showed me around and showed me all the places in Huddersfield town and King's Bar and all those sort of places. The warehouse. It was actually when I was here. The weather was good and the World Cup football was on, so it was a fantastic.
It was a good summer.
We went to Pitcherdrome, didn't we?
Yeah, the Pitcherdome.
It was absolutely.
Earl told me about the Pitcherdome, so we went and watched the quarter final there. Quarter final there. So, it was. I had more than enough help, more than enough guidance. Richard showed me a couple of places out at Denbydale and the Pie Hall, the Grove. So it was good. The positive thing about coming over here, where my wife came over a bit later, was I got to go and visit all these establishments and work out who was who in the zoo.
And one more thing before we move on is something I found out when you were at the Queen Bay and Blues was you had a window breaking incident.
I knew that would come up.
I wasn't even going to mention it. You're pretty brave.
It's quite funny. When I had an interview for this job, I had a couple of days, 2 or 3 days notice, and I prepared. I did everything I needed to do, and I thought I had everything. Any question they asked me, I had it covered. So Richard, the first question, brought up the window breaking incident. I've gone, how am I going to answer this? So that was a pretty stressful time, really. We were the best team all year. We finished minor premiers. We got beaten in the first semi-final. So we were in knockout the week after. It was only a top 4 over there, and the team we played sort of won 8 games straight. The team we were playing in the knockout had won 8 games straight, and everyone was saying they were going to beat us, and how would we bounce back from we actually got beaten in that first semi by 20 or something by Goulburn. And it was pretty stressed. Put a lot of pressure on myself that week, and we thought we had a good plan against this team, and we were pretty confident we could get the job done, but there was always all this noise in the background. I went to the awards night leading into that semi-final, and the West Belconnen coach was telling the Goulburn coach, I'll see you next week, and I'm starting to think, these blokes think they're going to beat us. So I was getting more and more worked up. So anyway, we came out the first 20 minutes, we've gone bang, 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 24-0 up. And I thought, beautiful, this is good. And I brought this bloke off the bench, Dave Pangai was his name. And, I told him before the game, when you get on, I just want you to do your job. I don't want you to overplay your hand, just do your job. So he's come on. He's thrown a ball to the ground. They've picked it up and ran 70 and scored. 2 minutes later, he's thrown an intercept. They've ran and scored. So all of a sudden, it was 24-12 at half time, and the coach is coming off the field into my players saying, the same as last week, eh? Is he going to fall? You're pretty much shit. Is he going to shit yourself in the second half? So one of the players one of the players has told me this at half time. So I've ripped into this Dave Pangai. I said, mate, blah blah blah. And so we pretty much stayed eight points up the whole second half. They never got within 8 points of us. And with 4 minutes to go, he's done it again. We're coming out of our own end, play 2. He's just thrown the ball out the back. They've picked it up and scored. So I'm thinking 3 minutes to go, we're going to get beat. I've got up and I've just hit the glass. with a few expletives, and it's just cracked. It's just crashed. I've got people in front of me in the grandstand all looking up, and I'm holding glass. All my fingers cut. So the guy sitting next to me had to radio down to come up and bring up some tape for Germ's fingers. So I'm putting glass down, I'm swearing at him, I'm watching the game, blokes are taping my arms up. And the bosses of the league are 3 boxes down, they've come and seen what's going on, and I've gone, this is not good at all. So we won the game, I've gone downstairs. JR, the founder of the Canberra Raiders, he's a big blues man too, he's come in and just looked at me and shook his head laughing. So I was coaching my young boy in the 15s. I literally had to talk to the boys, get in the car and go to his semi-final. Sunday night this was. So I'm there with my hands in my pocket the whole game because both fingers are bleeding. All fingers are bleeding. Four fingers on each hand were bleeding through the tape. Anyway, they've put me before the judiciary and they've said 9 months out of coaching, and it just worked out. It was they just didn't follow any of the proper processes. It was clear they just wanted to make an example of it. And 2 days later we lodged an appeal and we got it heard before the grand final, and the whole thing was thrown out. I got a 4 month suspended sentence. So if I did anything in that 4 months, I'd cop a sentence. But yeah, it was a pretty stressful time because I actually had a couple of opportunities to go to an NRL club too, and that sort of had a bit of an effect really. So it was tough. It was really tough. But I said to Richard and Ken at the time when they asked me, I said, well, the good thing is that glass was old. That stadium's old. I was in the same box for the grand final, and that new bit of glass was heaps thicker. So yeah, anyway, it wasn't a good time. And
the good thing is that you're not in a glass box here anyway, are you? Sat in the stands. So
yeah, no, there's not many boxes here. No.
The problem is everyone can hear what you're saying.
Yeah,
That's the issue.
And I throw a few pens, and I've actually hit the wooden table a couple of times, and Matty's looked at me. Matty Titchen's looked at me as if to say, "Did you just break your hand?" And I'm getting better.
I don't think you should be told off for being passionate about something.
Well, that's what it is. No, that's what it is. You got to curb it. Obviously, you can't be smashing glass and whatnot. I actually asked the manager who was sitting next to me to take the rap for me, but it was a bit hard when all my fingers were bleeding. So, but anyway, we moved on.
9 months is too much, isn't it? You've learnt your lesson by getting all your fingers cut.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Anyway, we have to move on, and we have to talk about the game on Friday. So it's not something that is, we like to talk about, especially for how good we played back at Magic, and since then the Castleford game was hard to take, and this one probably even more so. But where do you stand on that?
Well, look, I thought the Cass game, we did enough to win that. We didn't handle the last. When you score a try with 6 minutes to go, 4 minutes to go, and you go up by 6, you don't lose those games. Especially when you get their short kick-off back, and we just didn't get it right. We went into extra time and we were poor. We did everything to lose that game. So that was disappointing, even though we played some good footy that night. St Helens, we went there with a very young team, and the young kids have done a good job for us. And unfortunately, as Earl will attest to, when you've got a young team like that, there are going to be games like where they fall away a bit. And it wasn't only the young guys either. Some of our more experienced players weren't up to the mark either, and we've had a good chat about that. But I think there was a period there where they scored 3 tries in 10 minutes or something, and that was the game lost. And 26, losing by 26-2 at half time or 28-2 at half time, it could have been anything. It could have been 50 or 60, but I think they scored 2 tries in the last 50 minutes. So there was a lot. You've got to take the positives out of that. Yeah, did we go there and we were a little bit overawed by playing Saints at Saints? It was such a young team. We just got to make sure that doesn't affect the momentum we sort of had leading up to that game. We've played some pretty good. We lost 3 games by a point. It's a huge difference to where we are on the ladder at the moment. And again, those 3 games we were in winning positions with 5-6 minutes to go. Every one of them we threw it. We literally threw away. So we got to learn from that. We can't keep losing close games like that. But while Friday night was disappointing, it's we're not blowing players' legs off for that. They're a red hot team. We had a young team. They'll learn from that, and we've just got to get on with Wigan now.
It's a tough position to be, isn't it, for you? Because although we've got the best crop of youngsters we've ever had, that I've ever seen at this club, which is sensational and exciting for the future, it's the present that we have to worry about, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's difficult. I mean, you must see potential for the future, but this is a tough period, I suppose.
Yeah, it is, and when you've got a team like we have at the moment, you can carry 1 or 2 young kids, but when you're asking 6 or 7 of them to be at their best week in, week out, it's very tough. And I think, Darnell, even though Darnell's been really good, he's 21 years old, he's playing in a new position. So, there've been some games this year where, he hasn't been where we need him to be, but you've got to cop that. You can't expect a young kid playing, one of the toughest positions on the field to be at his best every week, and that's what you got to cop when you've got a young team. Innes and Louis and Ollie Russ had a couple of really good games, but he was off against St Helens. Sam Hewitt's been really good for us. He wasn't at his best against St Helens. All these guys know that. Jake Wardle, hasn't got the footy we needed him to have this year, so his performances are going to be inconsistent. But that's where we're at as a club. But the more games they play, the better they will be. And I think. I said to him after the game, we've got to learn from that. If you're good enough, you're old enough. And, those guys come into the team, we expect them to do a job. But the reality is some weeks they're not going to get it right. And, we need to try and minimise it and maybe have 1 or 2 of them off. But when there's 4, 5, 6 and then a couple of your senior guys are off as well, that's the result you're going to get. But I thought we showed a bit of fight to keep them to under 40, to be honest. And... it might sound silly, but we took some positives out of that game. We need to. We're in a position now. We've got a 5-week period where we've really earmarked as the time where we've got to get moving. We've got to sink or swim, and it starts this week. And we trained. We had our review and some work on Sunday, and the boys were a bit down, and so we made sure yesterday we made sure that was gone. St Helens was gone. We reviewed the game. It was gone. We're on to Wigan. And yesterday was one of our better sessions of the year. So the boys were really, really good. So I'm all positive and upbeat about our chances this week.
And how do you, as a coach, and you've been a player yourself, and you've probably been in those situations yourself on the back of those sort of results, how do you flip that from where you are now, not being able to get on the pitch yourself?
Well, it's we got to review that game like we do when we win a game. We make sure we look at the good stuff and what we need to get better at, and it's the same when we have a loss like that. We got to look at areas where we need to improve, but we've got to look at some things we did really well too. So it's trying to keep that level, I guess, that nice and level all the way through. It's very hard when you get beat by 30 odd to be positive, but we need to find ways to be positive and look at the way we'd played for the 4 or 5 weeks leading into that game. And I don't think, plenty of teams have played St Helens this year and had more than 38 points put on them. So, and put better teams out, more experienced teams out in the park than we did last week. So, we just got to learn from it. We've got to make sure that the guys that are going to get picked this week, they need to make sure they're ready to go. And
so, how important does the Wigan game now become this Friday for you?
Well, it's a must-win game. It's a must-win game. It's, we need to put everything into making sure we get the result this week. I mean, we could talk about processes and making sure we stick to our processes with our attack and our D. But at the end of the day, we just need to find a way to win, and we need to play well. We need to defend, like our life depends on it for each other, like we have done at periods this year. And we need to make sure we come off there satisfied with the effort we've put in, and I think if we do that, if we're satisfied with the effort and our execution, the result will look after itself.
And it's been spoken a lot about actually how I want to hear your opinions on this as well. The league table is 6 points separating bottom place to the playoff place now, and it's what does that say about the league? Is it that teams are all dropping to each other's level, or it's that everybody's improving to a point where every game's competitive?
I said to the guys when we got back in November that this year it was going to be even. I don't think, there's going to be easy beats. I knew London at times would struggle, coming into Super League, probably not spending the money that other clubs are and probably not having the quality, but you can see the job Wardy's done with them. They're playing for each other every week and they're winning games, more games than people would expect them to. But, they nearly beat us here on Easter. So I said at the start of the year it was going to be an even competition. I thought St Helens and Warrington would be standouts, but I thought the rest of the teams would be pretty even, and it's turning out that way. I mean, if we go and win 3 or 4 games, say we win 4 out of our next 5, we'll be in the 5. But if we win 2, we could be in a relegation battle. So that's the competition we're in. Everyone. I always hear and talk about different people, supporters talking about relegation, but I don't look at relegation. I look at what we need to do to get into the 5. So that's what our focus is. We've made our next 5 games, next 5 weeks a real focus for us, and it all starts this week.
And I don't know what your opinions on it are, but is this what we've spoke about, excitement of rugby league as a whole, especially in the UK last week? Is this what we need, this sort of competitive nature?
I mean, I personally think it needs to be more competitive, but I don't see the teams, I don't think everyone's got tighter. I think they've all become more inconsistent, especially like with us this weekend with a lot of young lads. Something Nathan Brown told me a long time ago with the team that we were playing pretty well at the time. Says, I don't need you all to have a 9 out of 10 game. I don't need you all to be a star player. I need you all to have a 7 out of 10 game every single week. He goes, I need you to do that, because naturally somebody will step up. It'll just happen automatically. Somebody will be able to do that. But if you can all play at 7 out of 10, someone will step up, and naturally someone will fall below that as well. But you can carry them through as long as there's only 1 or 2 of them. The problem I think most teams are having now is just so many players are having off games, and it's really hard to remain consistent, and rabbit in headlights sometimes are. I don't mean to pick on Ollie Russell here, but trying to nail a drop goal from 50 out in the pouring down rain, it's that for me. It's that consistency rather than being a bit smarter, kicking to a corner and building pressure. I think people see themselves running around celebrating, giving everyone high fives and being a hero. You don't need to be a hero. It's just naturally you play 7 out of 10 each week. Someone will automatically it'll just happen for you. Most of the teams now are inconsistent. The way to win games is to be consistent, to play really good every week, play smart, and then you'll win, because teams will make errors, and that's what's happening.
I think you're right. I think we've seen a lot of games this year where somebody will go right in front in the first half. You've got to look at the Castleford Hull game Thursday night. Castleford were in the driving seat all the way through the first half, and then Hull came back and gave it to them. And I think, if teams were consistent, it'd be sort of a more level score all the way through the game. But it needs to be more consistent.
Well, there's only 2 that have been, really. I mean, Warrington, and again they went to KR the other day and got beaten by them. That would have been a game they wouldn't have expected to lose.
Yeah.
But there's only been a couple of teams there. But I don't think it's not a coincidence either that those 2 teams have been relatively injury-free. I mean, Saints got a couple of players there. They missed for a few weeks, but, most weeks those 2 teams are fielding a bloody good team. There's plenty of experience, international players. They're import players on the field playing well. So I think that's got a fair bit to do with it. But and a lot of the other teams, as Earl said, aren't consistent. But, you look at Hull, they're as inconsistent as any. They win by 50 or lose by 50, But again, how many weeks have they named the same starting 13? I mean, we had a really good run there for a month, and I think it was 3 weeks in a row we named the same team. It's not a coincidence. So again, as I talked about earlier, it's important we get our performance side of things right, so we can have players on the field more often than not.
I think the difference is the strength in depth as well with Saints and Warrington. If they do lose somebody, they've generally got somebody great just waiting there in the sidelines ready to step up, haven't they?
Yeah, I think with us we have got more young kids. We've got young kids in the team, and then if anything happens, we're sending more young kids in. And it's tough for them to remain that consistent level week in, week out. They will have a great game, then they'll have maybe 3 terrible games, and then 2 fantastic games again. It's like there's no sort of in between. We just need you to play well. But that's the issue. But it's also the good thing for us is building the future. And what we're talking about performance, it's hard to do that during a season, isn't it? I mean, when it's not gone right, to fix
you got to get it
in
right in the
season,
pre-season. You got to get it right in the pre-season. I mean, you know, we lost a few guys, you know, Gasky and Nerf, and a couple of guys just before round one. But our training was, you know, we had to alter our training for a long time, so we didn't have others break in as well. So, yeah, it's obviously something we've identified we need to fix. But I think we're managing it pretty good at the moment. We've got a lot of guys back, you know, so it's obviously going to be a focus for us come November next year.
And something I got to read out for the game against Wigan this Friday is that the Giants are going to be celebrating the work of Cystic Fibrosis UK. They're urging all fans to support hashtag Wear Yellow. Wear Yellow Day.
What's Mellow?
All the Giants players will be wearing yellow armbands to support the cause and encouraging fans to wear yellow to Friday's game. In solidarity with the sufferers of the illness. It's a brilliant cause and I hope everybody gets behind it, and I'm expecting a full bright yellow suit from yourself, Tim.
Absolutely, yeah.
I thought you were just going to say you're expecting a full crowd. I was going.
That's more hopeful than expectation.
We've got a choir as well.
Oh, really?
We've got a choir from schools across Calderdale and Kirklees.
Timmy must be doing his job.
Yeah,
He's doing a job.
I am the choir. We've got some kids from across Calderdale and Kirklees going to be singing us a song called Panic at the John Smiths at half time. So let's just keep our fingers crossed that it's not Panic at the John Smiths on the field on Friday night.
For us at least.
For us at least, yeah. Let's hope it's Panic for Wigan. And, so should be a good game day Friday night.
Yellow. So
yellow.
You look good in a yellow suit.
Yeah, yellow suit. I think I would. Yeah, definitely. What are you going to wear then?
What's the Teletubbies? What was the yellow Tilly? You should get a Tinky Winky or Poe or
Lala.
Yeah, Lala. That's the one wearing the yellow one.
I didn't want to say it because I didn't want to make out like I watched it, but
Well, you can go as B1 and B2.
I'd love to see you stand abusing players.
Yeah, dressed as Tinky Winky.
Oh wow, that escalated.
Yeah, brilliant.
All right, well, if nobody else has got anything to add, no more Teletubbies costumes, then I think we're all good. Thanks very much for joining us, Simon. It's
been a lot of fun, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being honest, especially about the window incident.
Yep.
And we'll be back again next week, hopefully.